Today I'm going to make cavatelli with a pesto sauce. What you need for the pesto, in here I have half a teaspoon of salt and a quarter teaspoon of pepper, 3 cloves of garlic, a teaspoon of lemon juice, 1/3 of a cup of walnuts. You can use pine nuts. This is 1 cup each of basil and arugula. You can use just 2 cups of basil, but my kids don't like that much basil, so I cut it with the arugula. I have 1/3 of a cup of oil and 1/3 of a cup of Parmesan cheese, and then of course you're going to want whatever pasta you want. I'm going to make this in a food processor, and then for other equipment and tools you'll want a pot of boiling water for your pasta, and then a utensil to take your pasta out of the water. You could strain it, but since I'm making the cavatelli, I'll use this to take it out of the water. So the first thing we're going to do is plug in our food processor. We're going to add in the salt and pepper, the garlic, lemon juice, and the walnuts. So the food processor has a few safety items in place. So you won't be able to start it if you don't have the base locked, right? If you don't have the lid locked, or if it's not plugged in correctly. And you're going to want to make sure that you have the top portion in as well. And we're just going to pulsate that until it is combined. Okay, once that's combined, we're going to add the arugula and basil. Okay, make sure that goes in. And then we're going to add the oil as well and pulsate until that is combined. Right, you don't want to turn that on full blast, it'll make it a mush. You just want to pulsate it just a few times until you have that nice combined look. So we add that oil and Parmesan, pulsate a few more times. Go ahead and unplug the food processor, remove the lid and the blade safely, and this is what it should look like. I'll scrape this into a container and put it aside until I'm ready to use it. I had some of the ravioli filling left over, which was a mixture of ricotta and salt and spinach and a little bit of nutmeg. What I'm going to do is turn this into a cavatelli. So I have, it looks about 200 grams, 250 grams of the ricotta mixture, and then I have a cup of all-purpose flour, and I'm just gonna mix that in together until it forms a dough, and I'm gonna let it sit. Oh, I'm trying to film this with one hand and mix with the other. I'm gonna mix this up until it turns into a dough, and I'm gonna let it sit for about 20 minutes before I roll out the cavatelli. Alright, so I've finished mixing it. You can see that this is a little dough ball. I'll let that sit, and then I'm going to roll it out like I'd be making gnocchi. So I'm going to roll it into logs and then just cut those logs smaller. Alright, so to make the cavatelli, I just put a little bit of flour down. I've got my dough ball. I'm going to cut it into 4 smaller sections to make it more manageable of a size. There we go. Again, my hands are clean. We're going to just roll this out into a log. If it's sliding, then you have too much flour. If it's sticky, then you don't have enough flour on the counter or on your surface, the surface that you're working on. So I just like to roll this into a log. The size depends on how big of a pasta you want. I have this one, it's going to be about 1/2 inch when I'm done. Just remember when you're cooking it, it does get bigger, right? And then I'm going to use my pastry cutter just to cut these again into even smaller sizes. And then I like to give it a bit of a roll with my hand to get that cavatelli shape. And try to be consistent with the size. And eventually I will put some more flour on the surface so it doesn't stick. There we go. If you don't dust them in flour, they will stick to your countertop. The next step is to cook the cavatelli. I have a pot of water boiling. I've put, I'd say probably 2 tablespoons of salt in that. I want really salty water when I'm boiling this. You're going to want to place them in one at a time, and they will float to the top. And once they float to the top, I give them about another 5 minutes to finish cooking. Now that these are ready to come out, I'm going to scoop them gently with a slotted spoon. When making this, use the freshest ingredients as possible, especially with the arugula or spinach or basil. It'll make a huge difference. Now that it's finished, I'm going to scoop a portion into another bowl. And then I'm going to take about a tablespoon of the pesto. And we're going to put it into that bowl. You don't want too much. It'll be overpowering. We're going to mix it together gently with the spatula, just until it's coated. Looks great. It's plated now. The green of the cavatelli coordinates beautifully with the red from the poppies, so no need for extra garnish. Bon appetit!